Hello, and welcome back to the Pancake Podcast. We are out here in Black Hollow Reservoir, so it's a very fun time. All of our family is around, as you can hear, but I thought in honor of this celebration, I would do a special episode. Please enjoy the following podcast. So how about we just start with your name and what you do? That could be hobbies or profession or what you like to eat, anything really.
My name is Patricia Knapp, and I have worked for many years in business development for design and artistic type companies, whether they're artisan textile makers or furniture makers, lighting makers, jewelry makers, that sort of business of design, so in the art and design industry. And now I'm currently not working. I'm taking a break, and I've turned 65 recently, so I really want to figure out kind of how I want to live these next decades of my life, and did a big life change in terms of 10 years ago. I moved from Sydney to New York, and the whole idea of moving to New York was to be closer to my family again, because I'm originally from New Jersey. And I then was there for 10 years, and then, kind of hit a place in my life where it was like, well, I don't want to be here anymore in New York. As much as I love it, it's just not how I want to spend, like I said, the next decades or even few years of my life. I'm ready to do something different.
So how would you define yourself if you were going to say, I'm a, and then blank?
That would be really, I want to, if I'm going to work now, it would be something in terms of giving back, whether that means working for a .org or an NGO or teaching or volunteering or, but something that is helpful to the humanity in general. Working in art and design has been, fun, but it's not enough soul food for me anymore. I would define myself as a kind of a compassionate person and sensitive person who wants to, work with people who maybe have not has as many opportunities in their life, and maybe in some small way I could be helpful. That's the next step. But right now, everything I want to do is right under my nose, which is, like I said, to, be close to my dad, who's 89 years old. He's very healthy, knock on wood. And I recently lost my mother. So, but then my partner, Laura, she's obviously a very important part of my life, but right now she needs to be closer to her mom. I'm close to her mom too, but we're in this place where, they're thousands and thousands of miles away. So
do you have any specific causes or areas you would like to help out with?
My partner and I, Laura, often talk about maybe volunteering and working with Operation Smile, where you work with young kids or babies who have cleft lip, and basically Laura is a nurse as well as other things, but it's a fairly quick procedure, if it can be done voluntarily, even better, but it's like a 15-minute procedure that can turn a child's life around in a very major way. And I mean, we talk about going on a trip somewhere to do that at some point, but on a very basic level, it would be, working right now with other elderly people, just in a neighborly way, like my dad is surrounded by older people, and trying to bring some fun and joy into their lives. And then if I could, I'd love to do something that's more organized, which maybe would have an artistic flair to it or something, where working through art therapy, or over the course of the years I worked with kids in the art world, and just get simple things like getting them materials to make art, whatever the art they enjoyed doing, or worked with organizations that help kids be able to be creative and realize their creativity.
Would you mind speaking about your experience coming out?
Sure. Like I said, don't really have a very, I don't think, compelling story. It was the kind of thing that was sort of natural. It was like I was living in Australia, and I had been there about 12 years or so, and I had went over there with my husband at the time, and then I met Laura, my husband and I had split up. Laura was in a relationship, and she split up with her partner, and Laura was living overseas, and we didn't see each other. I mean, we were neighbors all those years, but then we didn't see each other for many years, like 3 years or so. And then she came back to Australia, and I was still living there. I was getting my master's at the time, and we became close at that time, because we've always been friends, and then it kind of grew from there. And then when I used to come and visit my family back in the US every year, or a couple times a year or whatever. And I just said to them, I've fallen in love, and they were like, "Oh, that's great. Are you kind of living a bohemian life?" They said. That's a cool way to put it. And I said, well, I don't know what you mean by that, but yeah, I am with a woman, and they were just like, they were confused at first, but just so loving, and so like, and at that time, Laura, they hadn't met Laura, and then, they said, I don't remember you ever being interested in women. Why? What happened? What changed? Or, they were just more inquisitive, about things, and then, but still very accepting. And then so that was with my sister. I had that conversation with my mom and dad, and everybody was really rather okay about it. Like, but they just wanted me to, because they could see I was happy. I think, like they were like, "Wow, you seem really happy. We can't wait to meet Laura." So, and maybe because I was in the right place at the right time, I'm from the East Coast. My parents are very, like I said, accepting, very loving. They don't care what other people think. I've always been sort of an artistic child, but oops, that's my little dog. Let her.
No worries.
Yeah. He's a little parrot.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't she cute?
Yes.
She's a little
She's very fluffy.
I gave her a trim. Yeah.
And you said she's a rescue?
Yeah, she's a little rescue. She's going over to Australia to live for.
Oh, wow.
I know. She's good. Say hi. She's cute.
When did you move to Sydney, and why? Like, what was the...
1995, I moved. I moved there because I had met my husband at the time in New York, and he was Australian. And over the years, we had visited Australia, and then it was like, well, why aren't we living there? Let's go there. Looks like a great, like Sydney looks like a great place. So we decided, we were in our 30s, and we decided we would live in Sydney for a while. And then it ended up being 17 years. So, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question before, but about coming out, but it was kind of a nice, really nice story, because after I told my family, I went back to Australia, and they were happy that I was happy, because they had seen that I was unhappy with what was going on in my previous relationship. And then I was on my own for a while, and that was fine. I was happy, but, you know, they didn't want to see me. They just kind of were worried about me also because I was so far away. And
do you have any favorite memory? Is there any part of your travels with your partner that stick out to you as kind of a joy-inducing memory?
Yeah, lots. I mean, we've been together now for like almost 15 years. So we've been to Thailand together. Absolutely love Southeast Asia, Bangkok and Phuket. And we've been to a few places in Europe, and we recently bought a vintage Volvo, a 1971.
Oh my gosh.
But guess what? It's in Italy. And then we went to pick it up in Italy, and now it's in the UK, and it's about to come over. I think we both try to enjoy the day-to-day. I mean, there's, highlights, but there's a lot to be said about the sort of I call it the long grass of routine, just every day, that kind of stuff. And
you were talking about how art, through kind of art therapy, has helped people engage with their emotions and feelings and their self. Do you think art has helped you in that way as well? Or?
Yes, I do. I think to me, like getting my master's in art, like in my 50s, art has always been a part of my life, but I always wanted to delve in deeper. I went to art school at Pratt Institute in New York, and that was 100 years ago. I graduated, but then I worked always in the art and design, but I always wanted to be in fine art again. And when I was working and living in Australia, I was a fine art dealer. So I worked in the world of fine art, modern Australian art, including Indigenous art. And that was just beyond wonderful. I absolutely loved that. And I love in Australian Aboriginal art. It's just very, very beautiful, because I feel the Aboriginal people are the land. They are Australia, and you can see that in a lot of their paintings. But I find that it's a beautiful place to go. It's, in your head and in your heart and physically and mentally, it's a way to calm the chatter in my head, about how woeful I feel the world is, and where I think the world is going. It's, it reminds me that there are people out there making beautiful things, and that art matters, whether it's visual arts or, whatever kind of art, people make and dedicate their lives to. It just kind of blows me away, like living a creative life. I wish I could have done that a little bit more so, but I still have a life, and I can still now maybe live that creative life. So
as a preface, growing up, I was quite isolated from a lot of people, which meant I just didn't get to engage with a lot of diverse people. Yeah. And now, having gone to university in England, being introduced to things like what people would call radical literature, so like works from Audre Lorde, I've realized that there's a lot more mediums than just literature that are extremely expressive, relevant in today's times, that have been made like in the 80s, in the 70s or 60s. But I've also realized that there's a cycle of being flooded with too much information, especially now in the digital age. Would you have any suggestions on how to kind of take time for yourself, or I guess dull the noise, if you will?
Well, that's such a good question. I mean, it's so personal, isn't it? But for each person, that's where I find spending time in the world of art. And for me, it was visual art, fine art, paintings, drawings, galleries, artists' lives. Music helps as well, I think, but pushing oneself to learn or try something new, like, I love soul music, Black American soul music and jazz music. And I'm not that familiar with, like, let's say Chopin or Bach. So I try to not force myself, but push myself, to listen and learn, because so many people, when I'm reading, people are grieving or suffering, they find solace in Chopin, or Bach. And, I thought, I've got to find this. I need, so just being open to new forms of art and trying to learn something, really every day. I don't think it's that hard to do, is it? Whether that's, finishing the book on Vincent van Gogh's life, or, reading a few pages every day, or jotting down a sketch of a beautiful bird that you saw. I get so angry at and so upset by the way the world is. It's like, okay, well, I need to do some kind of actionable thing, at least once or twice a week, whether that's donate or write to a senator or, somebody in office, or support the ACLU, whatever it is, or, so once or twice a week, I try to do that. That helps me.
So where do you see yourself in the future? Where would you like to be? If wildest dreams, what would you like to be doing?
Yeah, I'd love to be living in a crumbled down villa, that I'm working on with Laura, and it may be somewhere near the Mediterranean, and really be doing something physical. So that might mean it could be an olive farm or a pine nut farm, or I don't know, make shoes, or I don't, whatever. I think that would be my ultimate dream, to have a place where family and friends and far-flung, people can come to enjoy and be creative and cook and, be together, really,
Yeah, I've realized that the more artists I speak to, this is kind of the common end goal. I had just talked with one of my friends who I did a piece for, who's a tattoo artist. So his plan is to create a gallery where you have resident artists who come in from different ethnicities, specifically minoritized people. So hopefully, we'll have a ton of those popping up within the next however many years. So I think that does it for everything, except for the last question, if you don't mind. If you have any advice for somebody who is questioning, or just came out, or is going into the art world, anything that you have experience in, please share it with us, so maybe we can help others.
Yeah, oh, that's such a beautiful question. But I think, anyway, what's been successful for me is just being resilient and not being afraid of change. Like, I've changed jobs, I've, changed, my partners, I've changed lots of things in my life. Like, I didn't take a conventional route, not for any particular reason other than it felt like it suited me, at the time. Like, I didn't want to live in New Jersey in the suburbs. I wanted to go to art school, but I had spent 2 years at Villanova, which is like a, really white, almost Ivy League, boring ass school, right? But or university, I mean. And it was a, wonderful place on an educational level, but it was so, just stifling. And I thought, I can't stay here anymore. I don't like this. And I, and then I quit and drove to New York with a friend and slept in the parking lot of Pratt Institute, which I would not recommend, but because
maybe not.
He had a friend who lived there, and I thought, I've got to see this. I want to go to art school now. Like, I wasn't afraid to change. And I think what I'm trying to say is that it helped me land on my feet and see that I could move on to the next direction. I mean, I had setbacks, but I knew I could trust myself, and I would always figure out a way and get there and take care of myself, and not in a selfish way. It was just in a way that, made sense to me. It wasn't, like I said, constantly following my gut, following my heart, changing or jumping off a cliff or whatever, I think it's just being resilient and keeping an eye on, what feels right.
Oh, it was wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much.
You take care of yourself, and good luck with your project.
I hope you enjoyed, and please tune in for the next one.